Hello, this is Michael Hexter. Welcome to Politics 2100 here on YouTube. So this episode I'm calling Main Question for Short-Term Human Survival, how much of an apocalyptic nihilist is Putin? So I've written on this, or I've blogged about and also written about on the Politics 2100 blog about apocalyptic nihilism. And it's a concept that I don't know if it's entirely original with me, but I've been, I guess, the person who's tried to bring it into circulation and also link it up with other concepts in psychology and politics and so forth and so on, and make it an important, I think, missing concept in our understanding of human psychology and political psychology now in particular. So anyway, apocalyptic nihilism is the idea that you have basically a nihilistic outlook, that you believe that your actions or actions in the world around you will lead to an apocalypse, a grand explosion, or demolition, or annihilation, really, of the world, and you may be and there are variations, in some sense you might be a player within that apocalypse. You may be someone who welcomes it. It may be part of there's religious apocalyptic nihilism, and there's also political, secular apocalyptic nihilism, and also military apocalyptic nihilism, in that basically I think it's a quasi-normal part of the abnormal condition of being a soldier or a commander, for that matter, in an armed force, where you're faced with a dire situation where you think that you're annihilating, that you basically, the kamikaze psychology. So it's a word that I'm using as and not just obviously from Japan in the mid 20th century, but in more generally any running amok running, which is something that is something that warriors did in certain tribal societies, to attempt to create as much chaos with their own likely demise as they could, in order to either gain glory in the afterlife, or to benefit in some way the community that they were a part of. And anyway, so it's and I'm imputing, or I'm suggesting, that people who endeavor to do this are experiencing an apocalyptic nihilism. They are accepting the end of everything, or they want to think of their end as being grand and important, and it's part of this grand general ending. So it's not something measly and small and insignificant. So anyway, so as you might imagine, then, a political leader who thinks of himself as being put up against the wall, like Vladimir Putin thinks himself to be cornered in some way or another, or at least cornered in relationship to his own sense of his own ambitions, he might entertain apocalyptic nihilistic thinking. He might, and he certainly, you see this coursing through the state-run media in Russia now, talking about nuclear weapons. He now has, apocalyptic nihilism is particularly dangerous when mated with nuclear weapons, because nuclear weapons can create an apocalypse of, by any reasonable definition of the word, in reality and not just in people's minds and people's fantasies or imaginations. So anyway, so this is so the reason why I'm saying this is for our short-term human survival, we need to be looking and evaluating all the time how much of an apocalyptic nihilism is Vladimir Putin. And the reason why I'm focusing on Putin is it seems as though, at least currently, the U.S. leadership is not so apocalyptically nihilistic. So literally, sane and judicious and wise leadership in these times would avoid apocalyptic nihilism within one's own ranks, and then also monitor it and attempt to adjust for it in your foreign policy, your military policy, your diplomatic operations, and so forth and so on, and attempt to diminish the likelihood of many people being killed, and also particularly of nuclear war in our current situation. So anyway, I think it's a helpful concept to try to conceptualize and put a name on what are really just really scary events that are occurring in the world today. It's not to say it doesn't make them much less scary, but at least you are starting to address what might be the psychology of people who are doing it, even the psychology of people in some state-run TV in Russia, or some functionary who is following the orders of Putin, and it may be it's you don't know really if someone is really sincerely thinking of themselves as being, in this case, martyring themselves for Mother Russia, or for the concept of Mother Russia, and or for whatever a greater Russia, or a Russia that is a world power, and is and therefore there may be along the chains of command in Russia, there may be some people who think that, and other people who think, get me out of here, I don't want to be part of this madness. So but anyway, it seems as though the political apparatus so far is, and the military apparatus so far is under the direct control of Putin, and therefore to try to watch for this kind of rhetoric, this sort of, and to also, I think, naming it helps. So in other words, it brings it into the realm of a discussion, at least, potentially psychotherapy, maybe, though that's not anywhere near where we're at, and I'm not suggesting that as being a practical solution in our current situation. But certainly in the public discourse, we need to be discussing the reality, the imagination that becomes reality in this case, that might become reality, particularly along the lines of, and now Americans and who, or other nuclear powers, can also create a apocalyptically nihilistic or an apocalypse, and then via the route of having this psychology and having and enacting it and putting it into action, and allowing it to sweep away other attachments really to the world, attachments to a future, attachment. And so it's, in a way, it's a giving up of an attachment, an emotional attachment to the future and to a concrete real future for many people. It's saying, and also it's obviously, it's extremely narcissistic I mean, in most situations. Now, um, uh, I if you are someone who thinks that your cause is just, and you think you're protecting your people by trying to go out and cause as much havoc as you can with the enemy who's threatening your people, um, then I guess it's justified, or it could be justified. But for this, especially because of the finality and the also simply, as I'm saying, the egocentrism of a leader who is going to make this decision for everybody, and make it based on his own psychology, based on his own um, idiosyncratic assessment of the national, uh, destiny of Russia. Um, he's making that, and my sense is that not, if it were put to a vote, not many Russians would follow him down that path. Some would, but not many. And so, but they don't get to vote on it. So I think that this is anyway. This is a discourse I want to put out there, and in a way to try to discuss where the motivation comes from, because human actions, the actions of human beings, the first and the last mile are always in people's heads, in people's minds, for almost any action, other than a meteor hitting from space or whatever, or things that are just the weather, or things that are just not in the realm of human action so much. But or earthquake or something, but the actions that you take, you have an idea and so forth, so on, and then you enact it. And a leader, in particular, a leader of with immensely powerful military and bureaucracy and so forth and so on, can or leaders in collectively in other countries can. Through their psychology that they come to their, at least it is routed through their psychology, their actions and so forth and so on. So in this case, I think this is a good way to describe what, someone like Putin or someone in his situation might be going through. That he has also, there are other sides to his personality. There's corruption, there's greed and so forth and so on. There is his ideas that he thinks now. In the apocalyptic nihilism is also this idea of grandeur, of that one is trying to do something grand and great for one's people and so forth and so on. In this case, but he's that, as we saw in his talk, almost a week ago, he was saying, that means erasing the peoplehood of the Ukrainians, so and also their nation. So it's annihilatory, and it's not. I may be talking in a way that's not emphasizing the other side, especially when that nihilism has access to weapons, basically, and has access to weapons, and in this case, the military as well, and can do damage to other people who do not share the fantasy, who do not live in that fantasy of the glorious apocalypse. So anyway, so I think, and I think this needs to be monitored, even if, when also if he gets defeated, when he gets defeated in some form or other, if that happens, that it may become more dangerous to be looking out for this kind of psychology. So anyway, I'm just throwing this out there as an application of an idea that I think is important for understanding what's going on. And I hope, if you find this useful, please like the video, and also please share any thoughts you have about it in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.